Greetings, Earthlings. Welcome back to the channel. So, kind of wanted to do a little bit of a progress report on this thing. Some stuff showed up yesterday, and of course I got right to work because I waste no time when it comes to working on this truck. So, let's get right to it. If you can't tell already, kind of seeing through the semi-translucent body. A couple weeks ago I splurged for or I guess about a week ago, I splurged for the X Factor chassis cage kit, and it arrived yesterday, so I started working on that last night. And it is a challenge to put it together. You know, you just have to be patient, kind of think about where things are supposed to go. I did have problems with one cross member in the back, just from where the screw placements are here. So a little super glue was required in order to fix one side of the part that snapped, and it was not a major structural thing. It was just one of the thinner cross members here that is kind of semi in the way of the two screws that hold the rear down. It also very happily kind of deals with the issue where the other bumper part ran right into the top of the servo horn, so you weren't able to use the second hole up here to run as low as possible. And I could probably still run a little bit lower, but I kind of have it set up to where there's just a tiny little bit of lift. And since I have two weights on the top of the servo, it gives the exact amount of room underneath, with probably about a 0.5 millimeter of clearance in between the cage and the upper weight. So that's all working incredibly well. And then also too, I kind of had this set up sort of unintentionally with a little bit of Carolina squat in the last video, and that was to kind of deal with where the servo horn was hitting here. So I was using the third hole down on the front, and so now I'm officially using the second, and it has certainly evened and leveled things out quite a bit. But let me take a minute to talk about this whole X Factor chassis combo thing. There's a reason why this whole truck system like kind of became my favorite a couple weeks ago when I first got the chassis and got everything built. It's really just because of the whole modular nature that everything is. I mean, you even saw just how the body closes down and kind of snaps over the one single pin up front. And say what you will about pins, I mean, it's a comp truck, you know, so that doesn't seem to hurt anything at all, especially since you got a roll cage that you see right directly underneath everything. But I think, you know, a few points to be made, you know, about this is like just simply the fit and finish of everything. And then when I got the chassis, and built up with some other stuff and had to use the original 3D printed shock towers and the cross members and stuff like that. So those became available, and so I ordered those, and those arrived like a week or two ago. I guess it was like last week. And then a week ago, they made the announcement that the rock sliders were available. And so, you know, the batch of those were up for grabs. And so basically what it comes down to is that when you're dealing with little guy racing, sure, it's boutique stuff that you're going to be waiting, you know, a month or two for availability on stuff, and then it is very much a roll of the dice and how much you have set aside for your little guy racing parts releases. But that shouldn't stop you from, you know, wanting to kind of build. I guess it's easy to say it's the best of the best, but there's also a lot of other really good manufacturers of stuff out there that have made some fantastic crawlers. Not bad, but needless to say, you know, everybody has a system and everybody has a way, and I just really like how these guys are doing what they're doing. You know, this has been out for a while. I'm totally late to the game on this. Don't act like I'm trying to premiere anything new here at all. I very admittedly was way off in the weeds on multiple other different kinds of rock crawlers and stuff like that, and I've only just recently discovered the joys of little guy racing. And it very definitively answers a whole lot of questions in my hobby about where things were going and, you know, to what level of attention and detail it was going to be taken with this particular scale, and I found all those answers. So I'm very pleased. Like I said, I've got metal gotten installed all the way through on this now. Really, pretty much the only plastic that remains is just the upper body stuff here. And I'm not even sure if this would ever exist in metal. If it does, I'm sure it would be a pricey piece to own, and probably in the $200 to $300 range, I would imagine, just to get your hands on. And they'd have to mill it, and I don't know how they would, but I'm sure it's possible. Needless to say, it is amazing. Just the way everything went together, the fit, all the above. I'm just completely blown away by how well everything just closes up inside, and the hinge system still works on the underside. The one thing you do end up doing away with, and I did kind of like, was the catches on the sides of the other runners that grabbed the body edge. That was a really nice finished look. However, that's something that I'm completely willing to sacrifice for what you're left with on this, and that's a nice clean metal edge that is obviously far more durable. And also too, when you go to grab the sides of this now to pick up the truck, with the body and everything, or the cage inside of the body, now you feel like there's something there to be able to hold on to, and you're not going to squish and break anything. As you can see, that I've put a ton of scratches in this thing so far. Nice little dent even right here, right in the plastic. I'm so surprised that this hasn't broken, especially seeing things like this and a couple of the scratches that have been left behind, including the windshield and stuff like that all along the roof line. It's even taken a couple pretty good ones back here too. And without that cage in there, I was very worried that all of the time that I've put into this is, and as well, it's only $35 for each body, but I don't have $35 to throw away every couple of weeks when I go to crack a Lexan. So that's why I kind of parked it for about a week or so until I ordered the cage. Kind of back and forth about what to do about that. I didn't want to spend the money, so of course I just threw it on the credit card. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I got it. I'm definitely glad. So I see now too that when I opened it up, that they have screw holes around in all the various locations. So you don't necessarily need to build this with the X Factor body. You can, I'm assuming, just make your own panels if you decided that was something that you wanted to do. I've personally never really looked at one of these, like in an actual like racing setting to see like what is made and what isn't. But it wouldn't take much work at all to be able to fashion some like .025 sheet metal, a few quick cuts and a little pin vise, in the appropriate locations for the screw holes, and you would have yourself essentially an armored X Factor. That's something that's kind of semi on my thought list, I guess, that maybe, if someday the body decides to, get a little too beat up and I don't want to look at it anymore and I want to park it and save it, and that is, of course, if the cage inside isn't destroyed in the process, to maybe, go ahead and do that. And it might even be something that I just tackle over the wintertime, just piece by piece to see what I can get. I wouldn't mind at least getting like the front half of it and maybe a couple of the panels in the rear that look like they're supposed to have, stuff set up on them. So I think it would be pretty cool to do. So keep an eye out for that. And I will do it in metal too. I don't think that I would do it in Lexan. I think it'd be the kind of thing that I have just I have a right thickness of material and just enough of it laying around that I should be able to, I think, basically complete this in metal. So that might be something that I do. I do believe this would hold up, quite well. And also, too, if it had the structural rigidity of being pieced together with metal around it, you wouldn't have, you'd have a little bit of give, but you'd also have a lot of strength for rolls and impacts and stuff like that. I think it's worth it. I think it's by a long shot, I think it's worth it. And it wouldn't take but probably an afternoon with some tin snips and, like I said, the appropriate material and a pin vise and you'd be well on your way. So that said, what else can I talk about? I put a couple stickers on. Finally, I kind of left it unstickered, except for the one on the back. I'll probably put a couple more on it. I think I mentioned earlier that I added one more 1/4 ounce weight, wheel weight, to the top of the servo. And that was because, that is one thing I wanted to mention. I'm not sure what batteries everybody's running in these, but I tried everything. I have a 303S. I have this, which honestly you don't get any runtime in it, and I'm not doing 5-minute timed comp runs with this truck. I like to get out and run it, so it's running a 452S, which I think personally has all the zip and power and horse and juice and instantaneous thrust that you need for this motor and setup. You know, I have 3S and 2 other rigs, and I like it in those. But this, I wanted to keep the 2S. So anyway, I had a couple batteries. Fitment was a major issue, so I decided to go with electronics up front with the ability to still turn the power on by just reaching up under the wheel well and getting to it here. And, you know, if you need to turn it off, usually it helps to have like a pair of tweezers or a screwdriver or something like that laying around so you can kind of sneak up there and shut that off. But it's right above the rail. It was back here. It was a lot easier to get to, but I located the battery right on the angled part right behind the rear seat. And I can also still sneak the connector out and unplug things from there just to make sure that that's unplugged while charging. So nothing needs to come out. I just need to reach in with tweezers and pull the plug out and unplug and be able to snap in like a balanced charger or use an extension cord along with like a smart charger or what have you to be able to cycle the battery properly. That's about it. I don't think I'm going to do a winch on this. Right now, I don't see the need for it. Number 2, I don't even know where I'd put it. I'm sure there's a location. I'm sure many people have done it. I would probably need to go remote. But I'm not going to go through the headache of trying to figure any of that out. The stuff that I'm driving on, the things that I'm doing with this truck, I think for the most part, I'm about to call this complete. The only thing that I really would change at any point in the future would be to finally put some native, Super 8s on here, so that way, it's little guy racing all the way through. Well, except for the shocks. And I do like my Charismas. It would be a hard sell to not run my Charismas. Those are running, I believe, 30 weight in them. And I have factory SCX24 coils up at the very top. And those kind of act as just like a little bit of like an organic bump coil, which gives it just a little bit of rebound and kind of slows things down right before it bottoms out. It doesn't interfere with anything at all, other than, like I said, just kind of slows things down, just kind of beds it out just a little bit. So anyway, I think that's about it. That's about what I got. Oh, I did do this. I think I was talking about building a set of 1.8s for this. That did happen. These are what I'm calling Enduras. They're actually pretty soft, and I am kind of suffering through a break-in period on them, and I like them now more than what I did initially. I think kind of what the problem is with these is that the pins are a little bit too big and they don't grab on to the kind of rock that I'm driving on. But as you can see, they're definitely getting broken in, and they're starting to kind of let loose as some of the rubber material. And so that softer rubber underneath is working a lot better than what they were stock. So the big thing with this is that I went with brass portals. They're +4 portals. They're a little bit wider, as you can see. And the difference is huge. Thing feels awesome. It definitely climbs like a champ. It's doing really well. I do have a set of JD crawler pins on the way for this, which are probably going to get mounted on the Cyclone bead locks from Little Guy and go on here. No, I'm not going to run the Cyclone bead locks on this with the Endura pins because I like the offset that the hard part wheels are giving this on the +4s. So I'm probably going to keep things tucked in a little bit tighter on this, meaning that I'll try those on here and throw them on there. And honestly, I'll probably end up cutting the JD crawlers and mounting them on the 1.8s over the course of the next few days anyway. Love these wheels. I like how they look with the carbon fiber. I think that is just such a sweet looking rig, and it crawls like an absolute beast. Nano Beast inside of there, RS100. I've talked about this rig plenty. Believe it or not, this actually still has plastic drive shafts on it. It's a good failure point for this rig because it's got plenty of horsepower, it's got plenty of leverage. It needs a brake point that isn't metal. And so I think I've only snapped one, and I didn't even snap it. I just simply just popped it off at the U joint right up here. And that is the one and only time that's ever happened. But I don't run this rig to the point where I'm, bound up every 3 seconds, just trying to push it through something. I drive it right. So it seems that parts are holding up really well. Also, too, the skid has had no issues whatsoever. This is actually one of the clear ones that I have, and this thing seems to be doing great, too. You got to just not roll some of this stuff off of like 3 and 4 foot tall ledges onto ground and have it land belly up, which is what happened sometime earlier this spring, which is, I think, why I originally parked this rig. So, yeah, that's that. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys on the next one. Any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to drop those down below. Also, hit that like if you would. Thank you very much. And I will see you on the next one. Thanks, bye.